So, welcome back. And normally, this is the hardest sessions after the lunch. We don't have so much time, but in many places, when I do then after the lunch, I have discussion class. Break into the group and then have the discussions about the topic that we. But then again, since we didn't have so much time, so we didn't have time for that discussions. So now I'm going to kind of go through the practice itself a little bit. We did the practice, and so if you want to do by yourself at home in the futures, or when we do here, at the very beginning, like most Buddhist practice, it starts with the refuge and bodhicitta. Okay, that is the verse for the refuge and bodhicitta. Sometimes might be a little bit different. Some different people might use different verse. This is one of the most common that we use normally before teachings and also before practice. And I think I saw somewhere in one commentary where it says this verse was composed by Adisha. So anyway, I think, and after that, I think this became most kind of popular verse for the refuge and bodhicitta. But of course, in some other practices, there were different verse for the refuge, different verse for the bodhicitta. But basically, we always start with refuge and bodhicitta, whether it's briefly or more extensive. That can. We start with refuge because it's a Buddhist practice, and because it's a Buddhist practice, so we start with the refuge. And because it's a Mahayana practice, Bodhisattva practice, then you start with bodhicitta motivations. So it's so any Mahayana Bodhisattva practice always start with the bodhicitta motivation to be whatever you are doing, listening, teaching, or engaging meditation practice, or whether you are doing any kind of form of meditation, whatever you do, doing with the motivation to be benefit to others. So that is the bodhicitta motivation, Whatever I'm doing, even it is to improve yourself, but the purpose of improving yourself is to be more benefit to others. Okay? So always relating, whatever practice we do to take care of ourselves, improve ourselves. But very reason to improve yourself is not just for yourself, but if you improve yourself, then you can help and benefit more others. And so it's in order to be helping. So it is always good to start, if possible, any activities, even eating, sleeping, we need to eat to survive, be healthy. We need to sleep to be rested and to have some health, to be healthy and be rested. And the reason is just being rested and, energized or just feeling healthy. But the purpose of being healthy, the purpose of being rested, the purpose of energized is to practice and to be benefit and help. And so those things we do every day, eating, sleeping, whatever other form of things we do to keep ourselves healthy, but always bringing that intention, motivations. If you keep on bringing that intention, motivations, when you reach a point in your life where you have the capacity, ability to be helpful, you will always be helpful because that intention, motivation is always there. Because you constantly always relate with that, and so that intention, motivation is very strong, alive in yourself. If we don't have that intention, sometimes we feel if I have power, if I have money, if I have this and that, I will help and benefit. But actually, when we have that, we might not. But if we have continued to engage with that intention all the time, and when we do have that, when we reach certain that, then definitely you will be with that strong inspiration, intention. You will be able to reach out and help and be benefit, and of course, to achieve enlightenment, to be the greatest benefit. There's no doubt about that. So I feel intention very important to keep. Bodhisattva intention or any other intention. For example, maybe you have intention to do whatever in your life, to serve somewhere in whatever way, to dedicate yourself time for practice, finding time for retreat, whatever. Even you might not be able to find time, but if you have an intention, the motivation, intention always there, and definitely it's only a matter of time. You will be able to find time for that and make it happen. But if we don't keep that intention, motivation, then we have some inspiration, intention, certain time, but that get lost after some time. And after some time, then. But if you keep on, re-energizing or to repeat or to that, then definitely. So intention, motivation, very important, very important. So definitely Bodhisattva's motivation becomes extremely important. So it starts with that. And I don't want to go in so detail on the refuge and Bodhisattvas, okay? I think many of you, we have discussed, so I don't want to spend so much time there. And then here, then it comes immeasurable, for immeasurable. Again, for immeasurable, this is a shorter version. Sometimes there is a longer versions, in longer versions, may all sentient beings have happiness and cause. In longer versions, how wonderful it will be if all sentient beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May all sentient beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May I myself lead them to happiness and cause of happiness. And this Guru Deity bless me to be able to do that. So there are 4 with each of them. And again, when you have time, if you do, it's much more stronger. It's kind of building up that slowly. How wonderful it will be. It's one level. Then it's more stronger. May they have happiness and cause of happiness. Not only may they have cause and happiness and taking responsibility, I myself will lead them to happiness and cause of happiness. So, it's a training your mind, starting with more easier, and then slowly building up, more stronger. And that is same with it. And then to be able to do that, even though it is wonderful intentions, motivations, but it might not be so easy, to take the responsibility and trying to lead others to happiness and cause of happiness, not only temporary happiness, but ultimate happiness. And so that we need every help, and we need every help, every support. And so from a spiritual point of view, of course, on practical level, we can get support, help from our friends, families, sanghas, others to help us to, when we have the intention, when we have the will, wanting to help someone or sentient beings, and for them to support us. But also we need a spiritual help to be able to keep that mind from losing it, so that we don't have one moment and then next moment we lose it. We have that such wonderful mind for a week and then maybe we lose it after a few weeks. Maybe we have such wonderful thought for a month, then maybe we lose after some time. Sometimes we have such wonderful thought for a year. After a few years, then you never think of that. You lose that inspiration, you lose that good intention, your good heart, And you see all over the world, there are some people at one time, so such a compassion, such a kind, only thinking for others, wanting to serve others, wanted to serve the society, and then after some time they lose that inspiration, that kind of thought, and then sometimes they can end up becoming totally opposite. And so to be able to hold and keep that, not only we continue to meditate and practice, but also we really need the support. And so therefore, as part of that, the fourth one, may the Guru Deity please bless me to be able to do that. Requesting our Guru, requesting the personal deity, the Buddhas, to bless us, and to guide us to continue to keep, maintain, and improve that positive thoughts, that positive attitude. So that is the four immeasurable when you do the longer versions. And you apply that same to the all others. May all sentient, how wonderful it will be, all sentient beings are free from suffering and cause of suffering. May they all be free from suffering and cause of suffering. I myself will free them from suffering and cause of suffering. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do that. And same, how wonderful it will be if all sentient beings be never separated from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that is free from suffering. I myself will make the all sentient beings never be separated from happiness that is free from suffering. And same, how wonderful it will be if all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment, anger to some, by keeping some close and some distant. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, out of attachment and anger, keeping some close and some distant. I myself will lead them to be in equanimity, or to lead them in equanimity that is free from attachment, anger, that holds some dear, close, and some distant. This Guru Deity to be able to do that. So that is a little bit more longer versions. The one we have is shorter versions. So again, and here after the Bodhicitta motivation, you do the four immeasurable. And in these cases, is to support the bodhicitta mind that you have already generated when you do the motivation. The efficient bodhicitta, you try to generate the bodhicitta mind. through meditations. And so in order not to deteriorate or decay, but instead to maintain that bodhicitta mind in order to increase that bodhicitta mind, and four immeasurable here come after the bodhicitta. Normally, in the meditations of bodhicitta, then loving kindness, compassion come before, and then special attitude or universal attitude, and then the bodhicitta mind. In terms of training to develop bodhicitta mind, loving kindness, compassion, special attitude come earlier, and then bodhicitta mind. Like in this four immeasurable, like I myself will lead them to have happiness cosmos. That is the special attitude, taking responsibility on yourself. In some time, there is, in some, not only taking responsibility, in terms of attitude, you have to develop. I myself I will do by myself alone. That is even more stronger to have such courage and confidence that without relying on other help, even you don't get any help from others, you yourself alone will do that. So anyway, so here it comes later after the bodhicitta, reflection bodhicitta, then. And so here, when you do later, then it is to maintain that bodhicitta mind and to increase and improve. And after that, there is the visualization of deity here, and I don't think I need to go much detail in that visualizations. I think this morning we already kind of discussed a little bit. And in terms of visualizations, there are certain purpose of doing visualizations. Of course, one is to help our concentrations, to visualize and to be able to keep your mind focused on that image that you have visualized. So it's training your mind, to focus on that image without losing your mind, without letting your mind go other way, but just holding on that image. Once you have built up that image, at the very beginning, just trying to hold on that image. So it's to improve your concentrations. Also, and I think it helps your mind to be more creative with visualizations as well. And then, for the way our mind works, our psychology, the way our mind works, it is easier us to feel the faith or devotions or confidence that we are trying to cultivate if you have the image than without having the image. That is how our mind works. That is also a lot of time how a lot of those image of the Buddhas started to come into existence, You can have, when you say there is Buddha there without any image, it's much harder. But when there is an image, the way psychology, our mind, when we see something, able to see something, whether it is with eyes or in our mind, it makes more easier to connect. It is a kind of the bridge or tool to connect. It's not necessarily needed all the time. For someone who can connect without that, but for most people, for most, we cannot feel that. But when we have that, and through that sudden image in that way, that form, the way our mind functions, the way our mind and psychology works, it becomes more easier to feel, to connect, and to feel. And the purpose of cultivating such trust, confidence, faith, is to help us to open our mind, open our heart. It's much more harder to receive anything when your mind is closed. When your mind is closed, it's much more harder to receive anything. Even the Buddhas are there, even the enlightened means there, even the enlightened energy is there, Buddha's energy is there. If your mind is closed, you cannot receive it. It's like, the water tank that you have there to what was the rainwater, collect rainwater. If you put if you close with a lid, then it's not going to get in. Even if it's raining, you wouldn't get any water. You wouldn't be able to collect any water because it's closed. It's not open, it's closed. So even there is the energy, blessings, if your mind is closed, you don't get it. But if you are able to open it, then you are able to receive that. Not only with the Buddha's blessing, a lot of things, that is how it is in a lot of things, a lot of knowledge. There are a lot of knowledge. And when our mind is closed, we don't get any, we don't learn anything, we don't get any benefit that. When our mind is open, we can learn from many things. Different knowledge, different things. They say in Tibetan, the wisdom, knowledge is even in the child. If your mind is open and you will listen, with openness, if you listen, even you can learn so much. Even it doesn't have to be someone, an adults who has, teachers, educated, all degrees. If your mind is open, and if you listen openness, you can learn even from a very young child. You can learn from everything. Similarly, definitely. So, that openness of your mind, your heart, become important. Otherwise, we just collect the information and it never sinks, it never goes, because our mind is not open. It doesn't matter how much information you collect, but if our mind is open, even you have just small information, even small knowledge, you will be able to put into practice. You will be able to, and it will sink. You will be able to get benefit from that. You will see some changes, transformations. But also, if your visualization is not clear, you don't have to worry about that too, that I mention all the times. Some people are good at visualizations. Some people are not good at it by nature. Even when they try to change, it's not so easy for them. they require much more effort and much more practice to be able to do that. But main point is in such practice, you try to, as it's described, you try to feel it is there and trying to feel the presence of that enlightened energy here, the enlightened energy of the Avalokiteshvara, the compassionate energy, enlightened compassionate energy of that Avalokiteshvara, that is more important here, part of this practice. So if our visualization good, great. If it's not good, you don't have to worry, you don't have to think that you are missing some things or that you will not get the full benefit of this practice. If you can really feel the presence of that, if you can feel the presence of that, that is more important in this. So, so we went to the visualizations. Then there is one verses of praise. Here it says 3 times. Again, if you have time, you can recite 3 times. If you don't have 3 times, where it says, precious Lord, your body white and unblemished, your crown adorned with the perfect Buddhas, your eyes of compassion gazing on all beings. Avalokiteshvara, to you I pay homage. I think that is page number 5 or 6. So again, one of the reasons that why we chant, one of the reasons of chanting with the tune is this, is to help you to really feel it, When you just recite, it becomes very dry sometimes, But when you have that kind of sudden chanting way, then it invokes the feelings. And so that is the main thing, is invoke that feelings, and I think that is why sometimes I do the Tibetan chanting, even though sometimes it feels like it's better to understand, to recite in English for you. But I don't know, maybe for you it might be different because English is not my... but when I read the English, it becomes quite dry, It doesn't invoke that same level of feelings. But when I chant, there is that chanting has some kind of energy invoking that feeling that you are supposed to invoke, sense of faith, devotion, trust, confidence in that deity here in Avalokiteshvara. Then after that, there is 7 limbs or 7 branches here. And many of the such practice, you always see that, in such practices, you always see at the very beginning, whether it's called here translation 7 branches, sometimes it is translated 7 limbs practice. And again, the verse might be different, in different practice. The verses of prostration might be different. The verse of offering might be different. But in terms of the 7 practice or the branch, it's same. Sometimes that is very short, 1 line to each of 7 branches of limb, and here 1 verse is each to them, 4 lines. And then in some other extensive practice, like first paying homage or prostration, you might have 4 or 5 verses. Offering that might be 5, 10 verses, like that. And same with the confession and so forth. But basically, it starts with those 7 limb or 7 branches practice. And that is true to all practice in all practice of all different traditions in Tibetan Buddhism, which is rooted in Nalanda tradition, Mahayana Nalanda traditions. Sometimes the verse might be different because it is composed by different teachers, but basically the main essence is the same. The main essence is the same. And why we start with that? And these are all kind of part of the preliminary practices. Before we do the main body of the practice. Here, the main body of the practice is either meditating on loving kindness, compassion, or meditating on the nature of your mind, the ultimate nature of your mind. While you are meditating on that, then you recite the mantras. While you meditate on that, then you recite the mantras. That is the main body of the practice. Is while you are meditating on the the ultimate nature of your mind, or the compassion nature of your mind, while you meditate on that, then while reciting the mantras. So the previous one are kind of the preliminary. And why is that? Because in order for the success of your main body of the practice, the very heart of the practice, the main practice or the heart of the practice, in order to have success of that, for the success of that, then you need to purify the obstacles. You need to create and gather the conducive conditions. When there's no more, when you have cleared the obstacles, when there's no more obstacles or less obstacles, when you have accumulated and gathered the conducive conditions, then it becomes easy to have the realization or more success when whatever you are trying to meditate on, the main subjects, main point of the practice, main subject of the heart of the practice. In order to, for example, if you have to grow something you want to plant vegetable, whatever, fruit for yourself. The reason you plant is so that it can grow and you can enjoy, you can cook, enjoy that. But in order for that plant to grow well, you have to prepare the soil very well. If you don't prepare the soil, if you have not prepared the soil well with every, conducive condition that you need for a good soil for the growth of the good plant or vegetables. If you have not done well with that, you try to plant, it will not grow well. Planting. So that is why, therefore, some of the Katamba master or some of the teachers, they say, preliminary is more important than the actual one. Because when preliminary is done very well, the actual becomes easy. When the soil is so well, with weight and everything there, you don't have to pay so much attention. It grows easily. You just plant it, and the condition is so suitable. The condition is so suitable without so much require of so much effort, without require of so much time. It grows very well. But if the soil and the preparation not well, you keep on having to spend so much time, so much energy. Even with spending so much energy and so much time, still it might not grow well. And that is why, many teachers, many masters said, the preliminary practice, the 7 limb practice, is even more important than the actual. Some of the teachers, when they give their teachings for a lambrim, they might spend 2 hours, 1 hour doing the preliminary practices. And the teaching might be just 1 hour or half hour. And because they say the preliminary is more important than the actual. And so anyway, so that is in 7 branches, it is said, in some commentary it says, when all 7 branches are there, then the practice has more success, better result, and you have quick result and easily quick result. But when one of branch are missing, then then it becomes more difficult. It's like in a car, one of the wheel is missing, then you need all the 4 wheel or 6 wheel, if there's 6 wheel in that, to drive. If one of them is missing, then you could have problems, and it will not function well as it should be functioning. That is also the same when our body function, isn't it? If one of the organ, one of the things problem, then it affects other things. Not only that part, because it's related with others, it has a relation with others, then it also affects others. Not just that, over the time it will affect other part of the bodies, because they all are kind of strongly related, very strongly related, connected. And also, those 7 limb practice, if we don't understand well about this practice from a outsider, if you look from just outside, without understanding the true meaning of them, it might just feel like it is just kind of traditions, rituals, nothing spiritual. There could be that feeling, there could have such misunderstanding if you don't understand the true meaning of them. But if you really understand, it's not just physical rituals or ceremony or actions. There's much more deeper meaning in that. It's all to do with training your mind. It's all to do with training with your mind. The first limb of the branches is the frustrations. paying homage, prostrations. And it is when it is done, when you prostrate from your heart deeply, because you respect, because you have high regard and respect with someone or something, it acts as antidotes towards pride, delusional pride. That's how we feel when we have pride, ego. Why should I bow him? Why should I bow him? Who is he or she? That's how we feel, And I can see, even I feel a little bit of that, And I know it's because of my pride. And generally, Buddha's teachings, we will become monk or nun first. He or she is senior. Even I become full ordinations. 1 minute or 1 second before someone, I'm senior. He's the junior. Regardless of what my educations, how enlightened or unenlightened. And so as a way of that, then, you are supposed to prostrate to those who are senior to you. But sometimes with some, you might have difficulty, difficult of doing that. And do you know why I have difficulty of doing that or anyone? Because of pride. Why should I vow him? I might not have same feeling for someone I regard high and respect. In relation to that, I don't have pride towards them. I regard they are more supreme, higher in some way. And so because of that, there's no difficulty in doing that. But when we have difficulty, then that is because our pride and ego, because somehow we feel maybe we are better or maybe whatever, why should I? It was interesting. I think I saw there was a lot of conversation going on. I think when Obama went to Japan, and I think according to the culture, when he meet the king, kind of bowing or doing something, and then in these countries, there was so much conversation. Why should our president bow down? We are stronger. We are more powerful. That just shows a little bit of that. It's all about pride, ego. I'm better. I'm more powerful. I'm more stronger. So therefore, it should be around, not that way around. You should be the one who is bowing me, not me bowing to you. So when we do prostration, bowing with that kind of, by showing the respect, by holding that as giving high regard, holding high, then it is an antidote to pride. It's antidote to pride. And there are Karama master, like the Domdemba, the great Domdemba, it says, he even go and circumambulate the animals. That is how he is. He give even animals higher, not just as we circumambulate the holy objects. And because even that animal has Buddha nature, even that animal has Buddha nature. And that Buddha nature is more holy than the temple, this external temple. That Buddha nature is more holy than the big external temples. So because he understood that, and being Adisha really was great practitioner of humility and humbleness, And that is what, he even circumvent the animals by, respecting, bowing, homaging, paying homage to that animals because they have that Buddha nature, Mm. So here frustrations. And prostration word, and the verses can be different, So here to the noble Lord Avalokiteshvara, and all the victors means all the Buddhas, and their head means the Bodhisattvas. So it's prostrating to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and especially here the deity Avalokiteshvara. And normally we call Yidam in Tibetan word and English translation deity. And Yidam means something close to the practitioner, close to their heart. And normally is the Buddha, that's the practitioner have strong karmic connections, stronger karmic connection that normally that is the, with whom they have stronger connections, So anyway, so here the Yidam is the Avalokiteshvara, and so prostrating to the dwelling in the all the direction of universe through past, present, future. So saying, prostrating to Avalokiteshvara, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of 10 directions in all universe and all the Buddha and Buddha past, present, futures. Sincerely and intuitively, I pay homage, So sincerely, not just being, just doing the actions, not having without any feelings, whether we fold our hand together, that is also bowing, prostrations, or even with one hand, bowing, prostrations, or both hands, bowing, prostrations, or we do the half prostration or full prostrations, whatever form of prostration you do, Again, this is in many traditions is a sign of paying respect, bowing, homage. You see in India, you see in China, Japan, Korea, Also when they do and sometimes I found quite interesting. I kind of like it. I saw in China, Japan, I think Korea, I think maybe because they bow down and then they do like this. And I think I haven't asked it, but it seems like it's offering, prostrating and offering. I always thought wanting to ask it, but I haven't asked so far because I observed that. And my take on that might be paying hope. Like in some verse, I take refuge and offer and go for refuge and then make offerings. So prostrating and then offerings. But I always wanted to ask them what that represents or what that is. But so anyway, sincerely from their heart and enthusiastically, I pay homage. So that is the frustrations. So frustrations, when it is done correctly, rightly, is the antidote towards pride. So it's training of your mind. It's not a physical act of pushing, what you call push up. It's not a Buddhist push up, okay? But we do push up without any hesitations, isn't it? People do push up without any hesitation, but there is hesitation for that. It feels like it is something, I don't know, some kind of war traditions, some kind of whatever. So anyway, prostrations also is, practical level is also exercise. A lot of things like that, I've observed. Incredible. Even though it was for spiritual purpose, but on practical level, there are so many benefits. People from our area, and that is the case for most of the Tibetan Buddhists from all the Himalayan region in India, Nepal, Tibet, Mongolia, and many, And because they have strong devotions, so they go and, circumambulate stupas, holy stupas, close by their houses. Some of them, they will take a bus every morning, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 2 hours, and then they will walk a little bit, and they do the circumambulation every morning, every evenings, many of them, some of them every morning. If you go to the Sambhunath, you do the long Kora, it's like 45 minutes, 1 hour. If you really run, maybe it's half hour, But a lot of people, because there are a lot of others, stupas and prayer wheels. So if you do all of that, then it takes almost more than an hour. But if you don't do any of them, then if just really fast, it's half hour, 45 minutes. And they never thought, they never went for their good health. They did for their spiritual practice. But what I realized is that was their exercise. Both my parents didn't go to hospital, hardly went to hospital, most of their time. And so relatively they were quite healthy, and they have no form of exercise, but they did that all the time, and then they did frustration and that. And so I think those are kind of practical benefits. And then next is the offerings. And here the verse for offerings. So this is so you can see we have 7 water balls that you see, a lot of times 7 water balls. Sometimes we have, I think outside in front of there is 2 waters. 2 water is drinking water, washing water, and then the flower, then there's incense, then there is the light, then there's a fragrance, and then there is the food offerings. And some people have 8, that will be the music, but mostly it's 7. Because when you do the ceremony, you actually you use the music, so you are already offering there, so they don't arrange there. Or sometimes people also arrange sometimes. So anyway, so that 7 water bowl represent those 7 offerings. Okay. If you can make all these offerings individually, that is wonderful, even better. But even you cannot make those individually, at least you have 7 water bowls that symbolize, that represent that, and in your mind you visualize. So in a way, I think the Buddha was very kind that we can offer by visualization. We don't really have to offer, and you accumulate same equal merit if you can do really well. But anyway, so when you can, you offer in real, the actual offering. But when you cannot, you make in your visualization. So here that I make offering of flowers. So it didn't. So normally there's water and then flower, incense, lamp of the light, frequent sense, and the food and the music and light, And so then you can visualize all other offerings, the seven precious, the seven auspicious sign, eight auspicious sign, eight auspicious substance, all kind of offerings, human and divine offerings, and especially it will be beneficial to offer to the object that you are very attached to. Imagine visualizing offering that you are very attached to. And so in that way, we're training and learning to give up, to let it go, And if we train, to give up and to let it go, especially object where we're attached to. And if we need to, then you might be able to let it go and give and offer more easily, more easily. So then this practice then can act as an antidote to the attachment as well while you are doing the offering practice. Especially focusing on those objects you are very attached to and really sincerely giving from your heart in that way. Both physically and imaginary. So that is physically arrange whatever we can arrange, and then imaginary, with your imaginary, you visualize and create by your mind. And to whom we are offering is assembly of those noble ones, So Avalokiteshvara, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of 10 directions 3 times. So all these assembly of noble ones, please accept them, and then we make offering. Offering delightfully, joyfully, with great joy, with a great delight. And then also it can help, to imagine and visualize the merit field, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas accepting that joyfully, accepting joyfully. Not because they need it, but because for our own, to give us the opportunity to create a merit. And that was the same thing, even in Buddha's time, Buddha was offered to take care of food, places, everything by the patron, the kings. But Buddha, instead of that, he didn't accept that. Instead, he continued to go and beg every day together. And he said, of course, for the monk, is part of training, not to be attached and accepting humility. It's not easy to beg. We all know that, it's not easy to beg. We are too proud. We are too proud to beg. So it's training of letting go of that pride, training of humility, as well as attachments, because you have to accept whatever is given. You don't say, I'm vegetarian, I'm non-vegetarian, I'm gluten-free, I'm not gluten-free, I'm vegan, I'm not vegan, I want that flavor, I don't want that flavor, too salty, unsalty, Today I like to have rice, not a bread, Today I feel like a fish, So you are supposed to accept whatever you get it. So again, it's letting go of those attachments, accepting, being okay, whatever you get it, and appreciate that. Also, the rules are that you go from house to house. You cannot just go, oh, this is rich person, I'm going to go there. It's not. The rules is that you go from house to house in the village, giving equal opportunity to all of them. If they don't have anything to offer, then you move to the next house. And also, they don't have anything to offer, you move to the next house. But the Buddha said, even though those rich people can support them, especially kings, royal family, there are a lot of support of Buddha. But Buddha wanted to give the opportunity to everyone to create a marriage, And so that was one of the reasons that the rules are made like that. And so that is, again, the kindness of the Buddha, the wanting to give the opportunity for those who want to create merit, regardless how much you have, if you can afford, if you want to do that, giving opportunity to do that, So that is where, it's not because, the Buddhas was attached to them that, but they accept and they give us opportunity to do that. If we understand that, then, that can make huge difference. If we don't understand, then definitely it can have a different effect. And I saw that in, Lama Zopa Rinpoche in so many times, so many ways, For us, if someone come and ask for help all the time, financial help, after some time you might get annoyed, You get it? Is that getting annoyed or is that making me annoyed? So that is how sometimes we feel, you feel pressure. You feel pressure, you can't say no, but so many groups, individual asking, all the time, you feel. But Lama Zopa approach, anyone he comes, he gives help, small, big. And he is always grateful for giving opportunity. He thanked them. For us, it should be the other way. Thank you for helping me. But Rinpoche always thanked them, and he talked a lot about that. Thanking them, giving him opportunity to do those good things. Set as a food fund and many other funds, big funds. And every time Rinpoche talked about that, he always thanks the effort who asked him, requested him, and he always, every time he always said, thank you, grateful for giving me this opportunity to do that. And that is how he always, and so, so similarly here, that is how the Buddhas Bodhisattva, they feel, so for us also to give us the opportunity. So then that is the offerings. And the offerings, the part of the prostration, the practice of prostration is, of course, in terms of dealing with the mind training, is an antidote and to reduce the pride. And it's also a way of purifying, is a practice for purifying the negative karma. purifying the negative karma, as well as accumulating the merit, which is creating the conducive conditions. So offering is more creating the conducive conditions, creating the virtues, merit, positive karma, and that is part of the creating the conducive conditions for the growth, for the development, or for the growth of the spiritual plant, spiritual realization plant. So that is the conducive conditions. And in terms of the training with the mind, the offerings, when you give from your heart, joyfully, delightfully, happily, then it is an antidote towards miserliness. In terms of negative emotion, miserliness, greediness, due to miserliness and greediness, then we are unable to offer, we are unable to share, we are unable to give, So to be able to give from your heart, joyfully, happily, it reduces the miserliness and minds, the greediness, so it is antidote to that. And then third is confessions. And here in the verse itself, all my negative deeds throughout beginner's time until now, such as 10 non-virtuous actions, and the 5 in immediate reckoning, and so that is, I think, 5 uninterrupting negative karma. That is killing your father, killing your mothers, killing arhat, dividing the sanghas, and then the negative thoughts wounding the Buddhas, their bodies. So those are known as the heinous or crime or uninterrupted negative karma, one of the worst negative karmas. So whatever those which we have done, and in terms of the motivation factor to engage into such actions is sprung from the mind that is driven by destructive emotions. So, sometimes we engage in those unwholesome, unhealthy, non-virtuous actions, negative karma, either out of anger, either out of attachment, either out of ignorance, either out of 2 of them, either out of 3 of them, and then many other negative, out of other many destructive emotions that arise from them. So whatever out of motivated by any of the negative emotions, which we have created, any non-virtuous actions through either body, speech, mind, any of the doors, that we have done from beginning of lifetime, I confess them each and with everyone's. And so then we try to remember them, by understanding the nature of the karma, how, and then trying to strongly regret it, and then already regretting it, and then making strong determinations not to engage again in the futures, having a strong determinations, and then, engage in some virtues, whatever virtues, in order to purify that, and that practice supported by the recitation bodhicitta. So what we call for opening power. Through for opening power, then we try to purify. We try to stop creating any more new negative karma, and whatever negative karma we have created in the past, we try to purify them. We try to purify them, and they can be purified. All the negative karma we have created in the past can be purified, and then just because it can be purified doesn't mean again we keep on creating. And in some of the scriptures, they give example. If you break your legs, you can have surgery and you can be able to walk it, but it's better not to break to begin with. You can fix it, but it's not same like before. Same way we can purify it, but if we don't have to create it, it's better. Because even we can purify it, it says, that negative karma, even after purifying, it makes us more longer to achieve the spiritual result. Even though, because we are purified, therefore we might not experience the sufferings, result of that sufferings in that, but it kind of delay, postpone, or make you take longer time to cultivate the spiritual realizations. And so therefore, even it can be purified, but try to make all the effort not to engage in that to start with. So yeah, and confession is a part of, again, purifications, purifying, cleansing the obstacles, part of that. So within those three, two of them are purifying, and two of, offerings, and then also the frustration is a way of creating conducive conditions. So yeah, I think we will have a break. I think it's break time, yeah? Okay. Changjo semjo rinpoche, magye bana kekyo che, kyawa nyamba meba yang, kong le kong du kewa sho.